Welcome everyone. So now we are all here finally. We are going to discuss a great topic today, a really hot topic about the midterm. We're going to give you some interesting data, market data, some interesting tips, how to use it. And for all of that, we have brought today an amazing group. I couldn't ask for better people and more expert people about these topics, and not just about the industry that we are at and the new one that it can come. So welcome everyone for Fausto, Samuel, and David. David is going to be our special guest today. So everyone can start introducing themselves. Fausto.
Hi everyone. My name is Fausto. I work in Pricelabs. At the moment, I'm in charge with partnerships, but I was in business development and account management before. Happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Welcome, Fausto. We have with us as well Samuel today.
Hello, everyone, and sorry for the last-minute emotion to the webinar. I'm Samuel. I'm the head of Europe at Homelike. Homelike is a platform focused on monthly rentals, mid-stay market. Very exciting topic to talk about today. I've been for 4.5 years in the company. So before I used to also work on mid-stay platforms. So looking forward to sharing the knowledge and some data with you all.
Amazing. Welcome, Samuel. As many of you already know me, I'm John. I'm the head of revenue for Hostify. I handle all the sales and marketing. And today, as I mentioned, the start of the day, and obviously we can explain as much as we want, but somebody has to say that this is true and it's happening, no? So welcome, David, from Aticco Living.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Good evening, good morning, depending on the people where they are. Have a ton of experience in the tourist sector, but now I have also experience in the mid-term sector. So I hope I will be able to give some insight to our participants today.
Amazing. Welcome, David. So you can already start introducing a little bit about.
But we acquire an amazing ecosystem. We started 7 years ago with a co-working space. We have more than 40,000 square meters in 10 buildings. There is more than 6,000 or 7,000 people working in our co-workings. 3 years ago, we started an amazing adventure also. We are a co-living or mid-term operator. Currently, we have 315 accommodation units, but we have about 500 more coming in the pipeline. And we are working to have like a 10,000 in the year 2028. The amazing thing also of Aticco is that we have an ecosystem that is also, we have a startup accelerator, it's called Aticco Lab. And also we have a fund to invest in a startup seed. This is called Aticco Venture. So what is these things going together? The amazing thing is that at the end, our target segment are the same. Are people, young people working in technology who move from one city to another, who likes flexibility, who have amazing jobs. So these are our clients. And they are the same clients, are the same people who works or who are our clients in all these 4 business units. This is our ecosystem.
Amazing. Really interesting, David, and great plans from the future, and that has listings for 2028 and the great ecosystem that it just built. All right, so we can start already with the webinar, and before obviously we go into more data, more in deep into the market, let's just understand what is the midterm rental. Without that, we cannot start without not knowing what it used to be the rentals or what is still being today. Long-term rentals, it might be the oldest way to rent any kind of apartment, year after year. No hassle there, no check-ins, no nothing. Obviously, it's the real estate by heart. And what it come after, which is early 2000s, it was the short-term rentals, not anymore hotels, but also as well the apartments. They use these small stays, weekly, daily, in different areas, especially in the beaches, at least in Spain, more touristic places, and such as Airbnb or VRBO. Expedia or Booking that they started with this business, no? But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about the amazing and the strong midterm rentals that they are starting, and how fast is it growing. What is the midterm rentals? Basically, it stays depending on the market or depending on the legal laws on that country. It's going to be reservations that it goes from 28 or 30 days all the way to 12 months, but never more than a year. No, that would be considered already a long-term rental, and obviously the short-term rental is less than 30 days. No. What do we have in the middle? Usually, the more average bookings that we usually get, it's 1 to 6 months. That's the most average, depending on the type of the client that you're gonna get. And this is ideal for these new trends that they've been coming after the COVID. No, obviously students, nomads. That we'll talk later a bit more. So before I move forward, I'm just gonna do a quick question and ask. Have you ever worked with any midterm rentals already? Is any of the audience, as you can see on the questions, that have worked already with these midterm rentals? You will see a question over there if you can start responding. So we can see already some no's, and we'll come into that later. So, okay, a lot of people know. So that is going to be really interesting for you. Amazing. So for that ones that you haven't never worked, obviously after the webinar, you're going to be a professional. So let's give you an insight or what are you missing from these midterm rentals. No, this new concept, as we mentioned, it's already ready for exploration, but there are already some companies, like for example, in the US, we have Blue Ground. Here, as we have with today, we have Aticco Living, no, David, and how they are exploding this market that is coming, not just as a trend or as a mode. Is going to be like more like a market that is going to keep growing during the next few years. What we can see here, and an amazing data that we have here from the US, the rates, it has increased and more than 30 days, the reservations. They might be a bit lower, as we can see in US. In Europe, they stay more or less at the same rate, and in globally, it's going to be 19% lower. This doesn't mean that you're not going to make any kind of profit, and we will see later, because obviously you will have less expenses, as some of our colleagues will explain later. Okay. And from here, lastly, from my side, and before I start, a couple of questions for David, we can see as well interesting and something that is quite obvious, no? A 90% occupancy rate that will have the midterm over a year. We can see only some drops in July or August. And the hotel or the short-term rental, it will be quite the opposite, no? We have more steady markets during maybe the low seasons, and then we have a high rate, obviously, during the summer, no? Here as well, to understand, this is a global occupancy rate that we have seen, because obviously every market is completely different. But of course, it's going to be a more secure market, the midterm, no? So having that in mind, David, I will ask you a couple of questions. So do you think it's important to combine the different types of stay, short, mid, and long?
Well, it depends. It is not an easy question. At the end, if you have a hotel or you have a touristic building in a nice place, definitely for sure the touristic will be more profitable. But there are places that definitely, or because they have high seasonality, as we can see here in the charts, and then that means you don't have any you have very few occupancy rates on the winter, or because it's not in the middle of a city, it's surrounding, so it's not the perfect spot for the touristic accommodation, but it will be a nice place for residents. Then is a nice match to have both in the same time. So I will say it depends to have both of them in the same time.
Amazing. So that means you don't apply it to every property, no?
Yeah, I don't think we can apply the same in every property, in every war, in every country, and everything. Also, there's obviously legal issues that you mentioned at the beginning. Sometimes you cannot do it both in the same time. So it depends on the country. You can do it or not.
Okay. And how you usually do it?
How we usually do it? The combining. combine the two.
The short and mid, yeah. Mhm.
What we do is normally, normally we combine in this special place that is not the super touristic the place, and then normally it's in cities in the residential areas. So it helps us a lot to put together because the midterm it has normally a lot more percentage of the occupancy rate is much higher, but the price is much higher in the for the touristic accommodation. So we try to combine both of them in the same time in order to get the high price with the high accommodation. This is kind of a magic, It's like doing like a deal management, but in a quite specific way.
Amazing. And last from my side, are you seeing any specific trends or changes on the midterm that you noticed recently? And if that, how do you usually adapt your management to approach these new specific
We
trends?
definitely see the midterm is growing a lot. It is mostly because the population, the people are changing. Now, normally in the past, people tend to stay in the same place that normally they study or they was born. But now what is happening is the people tend to change the city they are living. So the demand is growing a lot everywhere. It is growing. Europe is growing. United States. So it is. This is the main thing. I think is the most important trend that we are seeing today. We are duplicating maybe demand and supply every 2 or 3 months. Every 2 or 3 years. No, so it's an amazing thing.
Amazing, David. Amazing. All right. So that being said, I'm just gonna pass it over to Samuel. He's gonna give us some insight about which opportunities do we have in this market. So, all yours, Samuel.
Good. So moving on. Thank you. Moving on to the first opportunity slide that we see here. At the end, as David was mentioning, the mid-term market is very different from the short-term market, especially in the audiences. It's very different and it's very complex when it comes to target your precise audience, in the sense of everyone can move for a monthly stay reason. Everyone can study, everyone can move, digital nomady, even like leisure stays for over a month, that we see, especially people coming from the US. So at the end, we see a lot of audience, that at the moment they are not being targeted. And the second opportunity is competition. If you go to the short-term market, you mainly see, say, 2, 3, 4 main OTAs who act as a reference in the industry. However, when it comes to midterm, at the moment it's quite of a new segment, and therefore there are different ways, multiple ways of getting this demand. Either channels that are specialized in midterm market. There are channels from the short-term industry moving into the midterm, direct bookings, agencies, corporates, even like classifieds. Still people like use classifieds to get these monthly bookings. So at the end, we see it as an opportunity. And the third point is basically the occupancy rates, and the fact that these guests are going to stay over for months, and therefore you don't need to focus, or you don't need to worry that much about keeping this property occupied, because it's already been sold out. And one of the most important things, and that's where I think that David was mentioning, because he's a little bit biased by the Barcelona law, but it's true that combining short and mid-term bookings might be something really interesting also for to keep this revenue management plus occupancy rates quite high throughout the year. So like trying to use the tool of this nice webinar, we're gonna send a question about if you are actually at the moment currently combining both types of rentals. Let's see if you ever experienced that. And in the meantime, it would be great if David, you could actually share some of your strategies, not to attract, to retain this type of mid to long-term guests.
But the first thing is to design your building or your assets for the kind of target that you are looking for. Obviously, the needs for somebody who is going to stay with you like 6 months are different than the needs of the people who are going to stay for 2 or 3 days or for a week. No? Yeah. So there is also an important thing is the community. So we are, as an Aticco, we are very community driven. So that means that we want people to know each other, to enrich each other, and then we use strategies for the people for this to happen and this magic happen. That is giving you more value because you are with more people than less value. So this is what we say there is a community. There is we look, since as you told us it's not that important to sell. Obviously it is important, but the demand is high. What is important is to increase the satisfaction. The satisfaction of the client, the customer experience is key here, because they are going to stay with you for longer. And it is super important to have a good reviews, and also the recommendation is very important, because at the end many people who are with you is going to recommend. So you have to focus a lot in customer experience, probably more than selling, because at the end we have a high percentage, high occupancy rates. So we have to focus in the people who are with us to be happy. This is the happier they are, the longer they will stay, and the more they will recommend to you. So this is more or less our strategy in this segment.
Yeah, community is actually a big topic in the scene, and I'm sure that that's gonna actually, as you mentioned, drive a lot of revenue itself. No, moving a little bit to the, let's say, more financial opportunities when it comes to mid-term market, we mainly see from an investor point of view that, as I said earlier, this is a new segment. No, it's a segment where we should be expecting a lot of growth in the upcoming years, a lot of new players, platforms, technology, channel managers, operators going into that market, and therefore opportunities when it comes to the investment side is super interesting. And we can tackle that topic afterwards. Legislation is actually going to that direction. No, we see in cities like Paris, New York, even Barcelona. No, operators that were doing short term in the past, they are moving their portfolio to mid term. Therefore, there is a very nice total audience mass. No, and the second point is control on your investment. No, at the end, the fact of having high occupancy rates, less check-ins, less checkouts, imply that you have more control for your, let's say, revenue management throughout certain months. So you don't live with this stress of, okay, I need to sell this gap, I have a cancellation, how can I actually fill up this gap? And that allows you to focus on customer care, on building a community, on getting more supply, on maybe considering the expansion. So at the end, from a financial point of view, the mid-term market offers some certain assets that, for example, short-term market is a little bit more intense when it comes to operations. No. And moving on to this graph, and let me explain you really what it means. And on the on the bottom left, you see the amounts of units dedicated exclusively on the midterm market in Europe. We focus mainly this graph on Europe. And on the right side, you see a live screenshot I took this morning of where are people looking for midterm accommodation. No, and you see that, for example, Germany, Berlin, and Munich are hotspots when it comes to businesses, students, especially relocation for projects. So as you can see, the demand and the supply when it comes to locations, at least, it's kind of balanced. No? But we mainly see two regions in Europe, the UK and Germany, mainly due to business reasons. They're actually leading the development in terms of units at the moment. However, we'll see afterwards that countries like Spain, Portugal, and Italy, they're actually growing way faster when it comes to new developments thrown into the market. And capitals, as I said earlier, Berlin, Madrid, Barcelona, and Paris, they're becoming very interesting for this kind of audience due to not only business, but also this nomading, this remote working, and that's a category that we're going to speak a little bit afterwards. But what is clear is what Joan and David were mentioning, that the demand has massively increased, no? And not in terms, this is not bookings numbers, not request numbers, actually people coming to the website to look for accommodation, no? So the interest is rising over 30-50% year over year, no? And then the last point regarding supply is we are seeing investors just doing developments on the midterm market, no? And why only in 2023 so far there are more than 15,000 new units thrown into the market, and we'll see it afterwards. Still, it's not enough to actually cope with demand existing, no? Yeah. Also, like another question to round would be: if you have properties in these kind of demanded areas in Europe? I hope you do, because it's a very jackpot for everyone. But also, like a little bit of locations, I wanted to share this data with you. And at the end, there's a ratio in Europe of 5 potential tenants for every midterm unit available in the market, no? So it's quite competitive, but in certain cities it's super competitive, no? Here you have Amsterdam, Dublin, Berlin, and it can be due to over demand in the of Berlin, or it can be supply in the case of Dublin and Amsterdam. In these cases, we would need 70% extra and 65% extra and 62% extra of the current supply base in order to get to this ratio of 5:1. No, that means that these locations are heavily undersupplied. But we don't need to go to the capitals of Europe, to the tech hub of Europe. Even if you go to second tier, third tier locations, like for example Porto, Manchester, Malaga, Bilbao, those are cities where, due to the undersupply existing in the market, and every investment or every deployment being built in these locations, it's super interesting from an occupancy and from a yielding point of view. If we analyze a little bit more, the opportunities when it comes to flows, to income flows, and we see that the good point of the midterm market is that if you get a booking for 3 months, you know that you're gonna get, like your investment or your cash flow for these 3 months, either upfront in the case of a corporate booking, B2B, or you can make sure that every 30 days you get like full 30 days in advance, no? And that's a very nice asset when it comes to prepare your cash flow strategy, and when it comes to prepare how do you actually monetize further investments, no? Second point is there is, as David was mentioning, obviously when it comes to compare it to the short-term market in some locations like from Barcelona or like Seaside or like even Paris for the Olympics, it's not comparable, no? The ADR you can get in the short-term rental versus the mid-term rental, the difference is quite relevant, no? However, if we compare to the long-stay market, to the residential market, and we see that in terms of yield, in terms of way more profitable to get apartments on the mid-term market and on the long-stay market. Not only in terms of prices, also in terms of security, no? Because in 50% of the cases, there's a company behind, and therefore you have a guarantor. Otherwise, it's student booking, and we know that the non-paid rate for students is 0.1%. So in terms of occupancy, safety, and management of the apartment, it's adding a lot into the market versus the long-stay segment. And if we go a little bit further, and I guess that this is one of the most interesting slides, no, in the presentation when it comes to pricing, no, how do I price my studio, my one-bedroom apartment, two-bedroom apartment? We've seen since 2020 an increase, no, on the average monthly rent, especially from 2021 to 2022 due to obviously the inflation, no. However, in 2023 we've seen, I'm not going to say a decrease because it's happened anytime soon, I guess, but we see a slowdown in terms of the pace due mainly to 3 reasons. One, demand has been affected by the loss of purchase power, no? And I think that especially on the corporate side, companies, if they tended to book hotels for like months, now they prefer to book serviced apartments and even co-living, no? It's something quite interesting to share afterwards with David. Also private hosts, so individuals getting the apartments from the residential market and putting into the mid-term market. And so we see that, not want to say competition, but there is more supply, there is more options to choose, and therefore the prices are still going up, but they are going up in a, let's say, slower pace than actually than actually the in 2021. And this slide for me it's quite technical, but let me guide you through so you will understand it. That basically shows you that in Europe there is a big gap. There's a big gap on between 800 euros and 2,000 euros a month. On the graph on the top is basically the bars they're looking for options, and the line is representing the units available. We see that more or less it's kind of like matching, but for this particular segment of 800 euros to 2,000 euros, there is still a lot of people looking for it, and not that many units are being deployed in the market. No, so our assumption is that once co-living, once David gets these 10,000 units on the market, we are going to see lots of bookings going into these type of properties for longer stays than actually what we are seeing right now in the corporate housing industry. No, and the second point is when it comes to size, something quite shocking versus, for example, the long stay market or the short term market is that size and the size requested and the size offered by the market almost matches. So we see that when it comes to studios or 1 bedroom or 3 bedroom apartments, demand matches supply, which is quite interesting, and that means that there's a very good job when it comes to planning and when it comes to the development. And going a little bit more to the file of these people, no, we've been talking about the market, corporate booking, but who are actually booking, no? And where do I get these tenants from, no? And on the left, you see a distribution of bookings in 2022. On the right, in this year so far. And so as you can see, it's mainly corporates, work relocation, projects. And then there was a very small category in 2022 called nomading that only represented 5% of the overall requests, the bookings. This year it represents 15%. And that implies a massive change in the industry because, one, these people, they are not going to the hotspots in the industry. They're not going to Berlin, they're not going to Vienna, they're not going to Dublin. They choose other type of destinations, which in terms of quality of life, is more aligned to what they're actually pursuing. No? So that opens the gate to developments in secondary, we call secondary or third tier cities. It's super interesting. No? And at the end, that's something that also wanted to ask to David, no, of clients, these digital nomads, these people who work remotely, they're asking for flexibility, and for them, flexibility is one of the main drivers of either pricing or location, no. And I think something interesting to get from David is how do you actually make sure that you are flexible with these tenants, and at the same time you offer to them a seamless experience and you adapt to their requests.
But flexibility is one of the keys. At the end, the user of these kind of products demands a lot of flexibility. So we, as a company, what we do is, for example, we have two kinds of contracts. We have one contract we close. We call it close. That means we have a date. I mean, the 15th of July, and then that's it. And the contract will finish at this day. And the other contract normally is 1 year, but we allow the tenant to break the contract or to close the contract, only telling us 45 days in advance. That means that they have the flexibility to stay 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, depending on the way, but they have to plan a little bit. Anyway, we are very flexible at the end because there is a lot of cases, we try to be very flexible and sympathetic because obviously, I don't know, there are special situations where we are more flexible than the contract in a sense. For example, I don't know, it happens a lot, people change their jobs. So I don't know, I mean, in 2 weeks, I'm going to move to London. So I will not need to stay longer here. So then depends, we study case by case and say, okay, since we have a lot of demand, we say, okay, you only have to pay at the end of the month, and that's okay. I mean, we are happy with you. So because as I told at the beginning, for us, it's a key point to keep our clients very happy, because at the end, the recommendation is super important. No? We get more than 50% or even 60% through our channels and through recommendations. So this is very important for us. And since flexibility is important, we don't go to the contract what we have, as we will a traditional landlord will do. We are a lot more open and flexible in doing this, and we think it is quite important. This aspect quite important. We sometimes we lose some money, but we keep the people happy, and we will provide at the end good recommendations for us.
Yeah, at the end, it's a very important point, in my opinion, because also it's the way to is the open gate for corporates. No, you provide the same flexibility than hotel, than a more apart hotel. Then the world is for the co-living scene, no, on the corporate scene, because you're offering similar experience, cheaper prices, community. So it's super interesting to actually see co-livings going more flexible, and because at some point you're going to be able to host students, every type of the audience that I mentioned at the beginning. And the last point I wanted to also highlight to the round is a wrap up, no, of the main opportunities and the main advantage kind of rentals, no. And fall, we saw that it's a way to maximize your occupancy rate through off-peak seasons, and to give you like constant flow of income through, let's say, the lowest, the less busiest months of the year. And the second point is operationally wise, the mid-term market is less intense than the short-term market or even the long-stay market, because at the end you are getting fewer tenants, but they stay longer, and therefore in terms of check-ins, check-outs, maintenance, sales, etc., it's a little bit less. And then super important, the safety and the security, no. We see that the way that people treat their apartments when they stay for months is different than the way, unlikely, the people treat the apartments when they stay for a day, for a couple of days, no. So this sense of home, this sense of, it's my place where I'm going to for the next month, actually gives a little bit more of homely experience to the apartment, no. And when it comes to safety, and when it comes to also make your tenants feel secure, especially in a certain times like the ones we are living. I want to also ask David, how do you actually tackle this concept, no, of safety and security, no? The fact of sharing communal spaces, sharing kitchens. How do you actually deal with safety and security with your tenants?
No, the first thing, speaking about safety, is the one point you said at the beginning is, since the market is not really, there is many kind of channels, could be like informal channels, could be newspapers, could be many of the channels. So there is a lot of insecurity, and there is a lot of scams in this market. So it is important as a brand to give a lot of brand awareness and say how you are. Also, I don't know, in channels like Homelike, or all the kind of channels that are with a good reputation, it is important, and it will grow a lot, because since there is a lot of people are afraid of paying money to somebody who you don't know exactly who is it, and there is a lot of kind of scam. So this is one point of insecurity that the people had before stay with us. As you say, we have a very strong relationship with our tenants. They are with us. Also, we are a community-driven company, so we know them. They know us. As you told them, in terms of maintenance and everything, it's much lower than the other experience, because at the end, the people feel at home. You don't destroy your furniture. I mean, you obviously can have accidents, but you don't destroy your things. It will be quite stupid. So it's not like let's say we don't have many issues. We don't have issues with maintenance and problems with people or misbehaving. So, but other thing that we have contracts, and we put a lot of we put a lot of efforts in the contract relating with the relationship with the people. I mean, they have to sign. Everybody has to sign a contract. Is there that with the rules and regulations of the occupancy, and there's a lot of things regarding how you have to respect each other in a sense, and also you cannot smoke, you can have animals, and there are many things. You cannot organize parties, for example, because at the end everybody has to be in the same level. No? So for us, it's very important. In terms of safety, this is also one point. Normally, people tend to have more valuable things. At the end, they have the PC, they have watches, they have jewelry, because it's their home. So they have more things that you will have maybe in a hotel. So security is important. What we have is we have cameras everywhere. Yes, we have in the doors. So we have 24 hours cameras. Nobody's watching this, but we are recording everything. We also have electronic individual locks. So that means you go through doors somehow in the common areas, or maybe in your room or whatever, or in your apartment. It is an individual. I mean, it's your key. It is electronic, but it's not something that you can share with other people. It's not a card. It's normally in your mobile. Sometimes it's a code, but it's an individual code. So we know exactly who has been in any place. No? There is also, since there is a community, obviously people know each other. So if somebody is from outside the community, they will obviously tell them that is a community. We have 24 assistant phones to help with the problems, and also have emergency phones, obviously, and regulate and any kind of things in case of problems. We have protocols to work with, but we have very few issues on this on security at the end, because it is like a place you go. It seems there is a community, everybody know each other, so it is difficult to get external people from this, because normally when there is external people, we introduce them, not always, but 90% we introduce them in the community. So at the end, everybody know each other very easily.
Good. Thanks for sharing this. A lot of knowledge of how to actually create communities. And also you guys have also the experience from your co-working spaces. So at the end, I think it's very valuable to share this to the round. Here my speech finalizes. I hope that in the opportunities you learn quite a lot. I'm going to still be able here on. I'll still be reachable on the Q&A. I'll give the room to you back, Joan, so you can introduce the next speaker.
Yeah, so we already spoke a bit what it is. We spoke a bit on data market. So now we're just going to teach you how to success in this market. No? So for this, we have our good friend Fausto from Pricelabs. So I leave it in your hands now.
Hey, hi guys. So I'm not going to talk about revenue management strategy, all of that. It's going to be a little bit more general, some tips. I will also, there's the presentation here. I will not follow one by one the topics there. I'm not going to read. I'm going to talk a little bit about, based on my experience and the experience we have with our clients at Pricelabs. Okay, so just to talk a little bit some benefits and limitations, because one of the main questions, and then I will while I'm talking, I will make some questions to David as well, that he can share his experience. But based on our clients, sometimes when they start on the midterm and migrate from short term to midterm, for example, usually they ask us if we know the benefits and limitations of midterm rentals. So I put some together here, and I hope David at the end, I will ask David if he agrees. Okay, so some of the benefits that based on our experience with our clients is reduced operational costs. It's a big difference compared to short-term rentals. So if you start in midterm rentals, this is one of the benefits. So you have extended rental periods. You will need less operational costs. At least adapted. You will still have operational costs, but not as much. One that is a headache for people that are in the short-term rental industry, that is lower wear and tear. So basically, less beds, less rooms to clean, less apartments to clean, less laundry, etc. In spite, I think maybe you have some attempts to scam. I think there's a reduced revenue risk as you work in midterm. So when you work in short term, the risk that you have on not achieving your goals in terms of revenue, I think it's a little bit higher. There's more cancellations, more everything. And one that is very important in certain markets, there is a reduced restrictions and legal in terms of legally, right? So a lot of markets are forbidding short term, not as much forbidden the midterm. And these are the most common benefits that our clients that move from short term to midterm send us. In terms of limitations, do you guys hear me okay? Yeah, I lost you for a second.
No, all good, all good. You can continue.
Okay. In terms of limitations, there's a little bit more of legal work in terms of midterm, right? You have to draft a formal rent agreement. You have to ensure clear communication, protection for both parties. You need to research the legal requirements for midterm. In some markets, short-term legally, it's a little bit easier. Then there's the market volatility, like demand for midterm rentals may fluctuate in your market or not. I mean, if you are in a market that doesn't fluctuate, great. But in some markets may fluctuate. For example, I imagine that the risk in London is smaller. Thinking on long term, right? Thinking on the next 5 years, the risk in London is small, or in 10 years, because a lot of people that invest in midterm, they have to invest in real estate as well. So thinking in 10 years or 15 years, the risk in London probably is smaller than in Malaga. Malaga may be a trend. London might not, right? I hope Malaga is not only a trend, but this happens in some markets, right? I know because like 12 years ago, I worked in a company that did midterm, and they had a lot of properties in Medellin in Colombia, and it was booming. And then the trend went down a little bit, then came up again, and now it's down again. So it's kind of it's not those kind of markets like Berlin or London that are always very stable. And of course, if someone is thinking on moving from short-term rentals to midterm rentals, you have to be aware that if you are in a very, as David mentioned, if you are in a very touristic, probably you will have a lower income. You have less costs, less headaches, but you will have a lower income in some specific markets. So you have to be aware of this. I don't know if David, if you agree or disagree with some of this. This was
I tend to agree with all of them.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, some of our clients, this was usually I went to the comments that they usually send us, and this was the common pains and the common benefits that they send. In terms of how to optimize your midterm rentals for ideal guests, I think the first step is define your ideal guest. It is important that you have a good segmentation of what you want. Sometimes people move to, and this happens in the short term as well, but they don't know what guests they want. I think that's one of the things that you really need to do to optimize your strategy. Start by identifying your target audience, or understanding their needs and preference, or like segmentation by age, income, travel purpose, length of stay, wherever. Because even in the midterm, if you are focusing on someone that are going to stay 1 month, you should prepare your accommodation for 1 month and not for 6. If you want people that wants to stay 6 months, you have to prepare a little bit different. So you have to have like your ideal guest. Then I think you should focus on the amenities that you want. Like, depending on your ideal guest, you have to understand if he will need a workstation or not. If he will need, of course, everyone will need high-speed internet, etc. But easy grocery access, for example, is it needed or not? This kind of an outdoor space. Are you going to be in Berlin during winter, or are you going to be in Malaga that having an outdoor space is more important all around the year? So I think all of these amenities are very, very important after you define an ideal guest. Before jumping to the next one that is about price, I want to make a question to David. There is midterm renters often seek a more home-like atmosphere. How do you personalize and enhance the guest experience to create a welcoming environment that sets your properties apart?
Well, you are totally right. In general, at least our idea is that people, at the end, if you are going to stay 3 months, 6 months, you don't want to be in a cold place, no, like in a hotel. It's something. So the first thing is the community, to know more people. So we have strategies for the people to know each other, like introducing them. Also, we have channels like a WhatsApp, we have a Slack, we have a newsletter, we organize events. So it's something that you, at the end, it's things that happen in the place. But in terms of we have to think it's the needs of somebody who is going to stay 1 week or 3 days. It's very different than the needs that somebody is going to stay for 6 months. So, for example, you will need a place to cook. It's obvious, but you will need enough space in the refrigerator. You will need enough space for food that maybe you will not need in a hotel or in a short term. So you have to think on this. Also, you need more storage because at the end it's your house. So that means you need to have maybe you have big luggage. Maybe so you need a lot of places to put the things. Maybe you have a bicycle, so that normally you will not have in a short-term accommodation. Maybe you have a car. So it is something that you have to think in terms of storage. There is also a difference in the interior design of the apartments. We tends to be neutral in colors. For example, we use a palette a little bit more neutral than we will do in a hotel. You can do spectacular things in a hotel in the short term because the people is going to stay 3 days, 1 week, and it's nice. I mean, you could put a super blue or fluorescent or wherever. You can do magic things because the people at the end, maybe they like it, maybe don't like it, but they're not going to stay longer. So it's okay. They stay 3 days. It's okay. They can survive. But you cannot put very radical things in places that the people is going to stay 6 months. So because at the end, it is the home of many people. So we need to be a little bit more neutral than will be in a sort states. We also have to think in a strong use in the common areas. So the common areas are used in a way, and we have to think in several kind of common areas because the people maybe they want to be with somebody, maybe they want to be in a common area but alone, maybe they want to be in a common area with less people. So what we have is many kind of common areas they can stay. Maybe alone and maybe with other people. So we we design our buildings in the sense with small places everywhere. Even in co-working, we do it. I mean, we create small places, people to stay maybe in front of the elevator or wherever. Is also an element that you will have in a soil stage. It is we have system for people to auto-manage the thing. For example, if they have a problem in maintenance, we have forums, we have technology. They tell us what is the problem. So through a system, so we have all the tickets and we can repair. We see they take photos of the problem, so we are able to repair and to quickly make the maintenance. But even more things. Sometimes we send them list of the things that the house has to be. I don't know, in order of number of spoons. I mean, they tell us this has to be 12 spoons here. So how many spoons do you have? And say, okay, I only have 8. So we send 4. So this is the way as we do a community-driven accommodation. We ask the people somehow to work for us in a sense because they are going to be more comfortable. They will never have this in the short term. And sometimes we have in the meantime. At least we push a lot on this, and it's a lot of learning that we are having because this is something new. It's something we didn't have in the past. It's to to people to co-create with us. So it's just these things. And more things is kind of maybe we have games, for example. I don't know. We put games that people to know each other. So we put things that I don't know, chess or whatever, to people to stay one with another. So it is the kind of strategies we do. But one strategy we do is we don't put numbers in the doors. You don't have numbers in your house, so we don't put numbers in the doors. We put small numbers, like a technical thing, in case some people can see it, but it's not like a big number like in a hotel. It is a quite different. And we also try to have a different colors sometimes with the apartments. If we have several apartments, we don't want these apartments to be exactly the same. So we put a little bit different furniture and a little bit different colors.
So customize and make it a little bit more feel like home. Okay. More than there's a lot more tips like keep your property well maintained, like all of this that is very common. But I will jump for the price, okay? Because I think it's something important. One of the mistakes that I see when people are new to midterm is that sometimes they don't know exactly how to do a market analysis and what should I compare with, and how should I do my market analysis and define my price. For example, Samuel mentioned two cities that I know more or less the numbers by memory, Porto and Malaga. I saw these numbers maybe 2 weeks ago, so I still remember. I saw an example in Porto that of 9,000 listings in the city, a sample of 9,000 listings, and this was in one of the OTAs, one of the biggest two OTAs in short-term rental. Okay, only of 9,000 units, I think only 190 something apartments had a minimum stay of minimum 28 nights. So it means that only less than 200 apartments are focused on midterm. It doesn't mean that the others don't get bookings for like monthly bookings, but it means that only a very small percentage are focused on midterm. The same in Malaga. In Malaga, it was exactly the same. Of 6,000 or 5,000 apartments, as an example, only 100 something had a minimum stay of 28 nights. I think it was 28 nights that in that case, that OTA considers a monthly stay. So it's a very, very small percentage. So if you really want to focus on midterm, the minimum stay that you should focus is that one. It's hard to focus on midterm and then have 5 nights minimum, because you just will have the calendar full of gaps. But in terms of price, one of the main mistakes is that sometimes people go to some market data tools, so like Pricelabs or any other, but they don't know how to customize the concept, and they just look at the market data and say, okay, let's see in Malaga, what was the occupancy per month, or in Berlin, what was the ADR, and they do kind of a ROI calculation based on that, or they set goals based on that. This is very, very dangerous. Why? Because, as I mentioned, a lot of these properties might not be completely focused on midterms, unless you have market data from companies or from sources that only focus on midterm, and it's only midterm. That probably it's not easy to find. Don't trust some of the data that you see around saying there's 10,000 listings in this area and the average ADR is this, okay? Because everything is mixed up, not only midterms, okay? Try to always set your specific concept. Also, in spite you are going to midterm, don't forget that you still have to set your seasonality prices, okay? It's not that it's midterm and now I sell to corporate and I cannot use my seasonality to make a little bit more money. Of course you can. You can be on the midterm and use your seasonality and use the demand in the market to improve. It's going to be different from a short term. Of course, you cannot increase the price of one entire month because there's a concert that day. But you can still use the seasonality. If you know that it's high season or peak seasons, or like there's a lot of seasons throughout the year, right? I don't know, in your market, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter, but use it. Don't think that you have to always have the same price or only 2 rates throughout the year. You can have more in spite you are in the midterm. Also focus in your booking window. A lot of people forget that if you are in midterm, booking window is very important. Don't forget to you can set your price strategy based on your booking window as well. At this point, I want to sell in a certain period. When I have another booking window, I want another. And if this happens, I want this one. You can also adjust it. You can do it manually. You can use a tool, even a tool like Pricelabs or any other that does exactly the same. You can do this if you want. It doesn't exist a tool that only works for short-term rentals or only mid-term rentals. I think you can use for both. You just need to adapt to your own strategy. Okay. If you do it manually, perfect. Do it manually. You just need to do it and keep a track of the results. Okay. And because I don't want to lose a lot more time, don't forget that track the macro situation of your market based on other kind of sources. It's not the usual tourist that you have. Try to track how the midterm rental, the digital nomads, your ideal guest, your persona, how is the behavior on your market, okay? If you are using a tool, this might be detected, okay? But still, try to understand what's happening in your market for your segment of accommodation, because you can proactively change your accommodation if you know that something is booming. You can proactively change something if you know that a big company is opening and they will need 300, 500, or 1,000 rooms for some reason. Okay, so you can proactively do your strategy as well. Okay, because we are also running a little bit out of time, I will just do a question to David. David, setting the right prices for midterm rental is crucial and of great importance, as we talk. But for example, in your case, do you employ any strategies or methods to determine the pricing for these rentals? Or do you compare with the competitors, or because in your market there's not a lot of competitors, just do based on your performance?
Well, I tend to agree with most of the things you said. There is one problem with midterm. It is that we have a lot of less information or reliable information, and than the tourist sector, for example, that we have plenty of them. The thing is also that the products in midterms are a lot more heterogeneous than in the short term. It means you can have a very small room comparing with a house of 3,000 square meters. So, in a sense, you have to be very careful when you compare one thing with another, because it is not that easy. You cannot use like in hotel stars, or it is difficult to compare the things. So what we do, the first thing is to understand, in order to set the price, the drivers of the price. So we have about 20 drivers of a price to define our price. Obviously, we do it a little bit manually. We would like to do it a little more using tool, but we haven't found yet a very enough powerful a tool that will be very powerful. So we set a price for any of the of our units. There is obviously a strong correlation between the housing market, I mean the lease of a long term with our short term, but there is a lot more effects or drivers of the price. The amenities that you have is not only location, the size of the place, the decoration. So there is many. You have elevator or not, because at the end the demand is the drive that the people are choosing this place a little bit different, because they will choose if it's a touristic or short term. They choose for different reasons. Obviously, if you are near to offices, you don't need in a tourist. The good location will be in a tourist area. But if you are looking for short term, maybe it's not tourist area what the people are looking. They are looking for places where they job, so where they have their job. So you have to be near to the offices, maybe walking distance on things like this. Our strategy is we like to have people for longer time, like 6 or 7 months as an average. So we don't push the price so high. I mean, sometimes we will be able to charge higher, but then if you charge higher, then the people tend to stay lower time. So they tend to stay shorter time. So it will be 3 months, 2 months. So sometimes we play with normally we have 99% occupancy rates, or 10%, or even 100% occupancy rates. So we have plenty many of the time. So we are comfortable like this. We charge enough price. Another important aspect you tell before is how you set up the prices, or your strategy of channels, for example, depending if it's high season or low season. The seasons are different than in the short term, but we also have high seasons, obviously. For example, Madrid, Barcelona, the lower season is July and August. There is many causes because of this, but even in Madrid is much worse than in Barcelona, for example. So we have to work maybe with different prices, with different offers. We have to do different things in terms of price, and we have to work maybe with different channels. That means working a little bit with different people, but with different segments. It is what we do.
Great. And before passing the presentation to Joan, I just wanted to ask you, how important do you think it is to be able to have software, for example, like a PMS or a RMS, that has specific functionalities and capabilities to manage mid-stay? And how can it help?
Well, in general, technology and tools are less developed than in short terms. A lot of less developed. I mean, obviously, they need to have a strong PMS or or a channel manager or a booking engine, or these kind of tools are absolutely key in the short term because you have thousands of reservations, maybe tens of thousands. So in case of the short term, at the end, we don't have so many. If you realize we have 60, we have people as an average of 6 months, we have 350 today units, it's 700 reservations per year. It's 2 per day. I mean, the people in the hotel will laugh at us. They say like this is very few. So technology is important if we definitely become a lot more bigger. You have less reservation. It is important because at the end, obviously, it's important but less important than in the short term. But obviously, it's becoming more and more important because if you have, as you said in the beginning, the prices tend to be lower, or even Samuel said, one of the things in this sector, you have to be very, very efficient. I mean, you need to do a lot of more things with a lot of less people. It is less. We need a lot of less people. We don't need 24 hours reservations, receptions, or we don't need many of the service we provide in the short term because the people stay there. They have the key, or they have the app to open the doors, and they are able to manage things. So we don't have to provide them, I don't know, 24-hour service. We obviously we have to have maintenance and everything, but we don't have to provide maintenance in 1 hour. The maintenance can be provided in, I don't know, in 1 or 2 days. So to say something, that means if you really want to be efficient, you need technology. So the thing is, you need less, but at the end, it seems you have to be a lot more efficient because you cannot have so many people as you have in the tourists in the short term. Then you have to be, then you need technology too.
Okay, thank you.
Amazing.
I will jump to Joan. Thank you.
Yeah, we heard you, David. As you mentioned, there are not that many tools though nowadays. More the softwares, they're focused on the short term. But as you mentioned, that's why we are here, and not just us, Hostify, also as well, Pricelabs. And as you mentioned, you're going to need new tools, technology, because this is a brand new market. And actually, from our side, we've been developing many different things, no? And yes, you as one of our key clients, I would like to have more of your insight, no? As we were talking, Hostify has recently added some new features towards this market. What do you think is the benefit that is bringing to you?
Well, there is an issue using PMS, for example, for the tourist for the tourist sector. So we have some difficulties. That's why we choose Hostify, because if you want the prices that normally we give to our clients are monthly prices, and the prices or the number of days in a month are not exactly the same. Sometimes 30, 31, 29, 28. So that means it's a little bit because we sign contract with them, and we don't sign a contract by the day. We sign a contract by a month. So this is a strong difficulty when you want to implement a normal PMS. There are plenty of them, very good ones, but you don't have a place to put monthly price. So then there is a strong difficulty if you really want to. You can charge if it is 28 days, 32, 35, you can even charge by day. But if you really want to go to the midterm, contracts, then you stay 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Then you need another kind of thing. So that's why it is important to use in specific. At least there are not many. I mean, we have been looking for a lot of time, and there are very, very few that they are doing.
Indeed, and that's why one of the things that you mentioned, Hostify allows to do some monthly prices. Things important, as you mentioned, that it has to be, as you mentioned, when you manage like lots of reservations, I don't know, 100 reservations at the same time that they're staying for 6 months. You need to have like an easy multi-calendar, easy to track. It has to be smooth with the cost communications. So all these kind of importance, as you were mentioning before, like the client has to be more auto self-sufficient, that they report you through this technology. Hey, I have this issue, and then the maintenance, they know straight away via the pictures, the communications that you have, using this technology to have it. So that's why it's important. Many things that we've been talking during this webinar about the community, and also about all the revenue, how all these tools, they're going to help you into that. And how to customize. This is a big topic that you mentioned as well, the pricing for longer stays. Through tools like ours, you can customize that. Set restrictions on booking windows. One of the things that actually Fausto was mentioning, sometimes it could be hard to combine both of them because you might have gaps. So that's why, for example, we have set up some restriction windows where you won't have a gap between one reservation to another one of 15 days. So like that, you prevent, since you're only working on 28 days, to have seamless reservations between gaps of 2-3 nights that you can obviously afford. And obviously, as you were mentioning as well, a big part of that, the website, a booking engine that it can provide you with all these structure and processes that you've been mentioning through the tool. One of the other things that we were talking as well, like to make it easier for the guests to stay there. Again, community, a booking process. All these nomads, they like so much the technology. So how to collect the rent on monthly basis automatically, how to show the monthly prices as well on an invoice straight away with all your calculations. Because obviously, again, as we were talking, monthly rentals, they might have some utilities or some other services that usually in the short term you wouldn't charge. But since it's a mix between short and long, sometimes utilities or other services, they might be implied into the invoices. Coming into the end, I would like to ask you one last question. Which kind of advice will you give to someone that's starting on the midterm rentals? What do you think are the key factors to consider to success in this new industry, this new trend industry that is happening nowadays?
Well, the important thing is you cannot have midterm rentals with the same kind of level of service that you have for the short terms, because it will not be profitable. Either you go for midterm with a very limited service at the end, because or you go you stay in the short terms. So this is an important insight that we need to have here. I mean, to mix, it's a little bit, obviously you have a very big I don't know, you have something like a 300, 400 rooms. You can do it perfectly, both of the models. But you have, I don't know, 20, 50, you have to be sure, because the kind of reception that you are going to have, the kind of service on maintenance and everything is not the same. The ones that are paying, the ones that the mid-term people are paying, and then the short-term people are paying, the kind of service. This is also, is you have to design, as we said before, you have to design your building, your facilities on the needs of the people. So you have to think if they are digital nomads, corporate, or they have the kind of things they have. Wi-Fi, you will need always high speed Wi-Fi, even in short term, mid term, or whatever. More important than the water even. But there is I would say these things.
Amazing. It's been very interesting. As we mentioned, we've been over a little bit the time. We're expecting for an hour, but this topic, it's brand new. It's really interesting. We could be here hours and hours speaking. We have a few minutes if you have some Q&A, because I've seen already some putting some questions. we were talking, and I think between all the three. So, are there any specific insurance requirements or recommendation for entering the midterm rental market? So here I think David, it's going to be most of the questions for you since
We,
you're
we
the
have
expert.
we have AXA is an European insurance, and we need to. I need to have like a meeting of 3 hours and a half with 4 people to define the kind of service that we need. So yes, definitely you have to be with your supplier to really cover your needs, because it's not a touristic, it's a different one. So it's something that it has to be addressed specifically with your supplier.
Here, I think we can answer all the three of us. Can I start transitioning from my short-term rental to mid-term right away, or is there any crucial initial step I should take? So here, one of the things that Fausto was mentioning, to don't go straight away, trust the data. As we mentioned, there is not that many data like the short term. So be careful, be mindful, research properly about the market that you're at. As we mentioned, again, maybe markets like London and Berlin might be easier. We already know, Samuel already specified as well, that there are hot markets, that they are very stable for years now, versus other markets.
I will say there is when you mix this, well, there is like four kind of products. It's short-term use, mid-term use, short-term use with some mid-term, and mid-term use with some short-term. So you have to define where you are, because depending if you are one of these four, you will need to provide different kind of services. So it's important to understand what you want. You want to mix if it's a short term with some midterm, or a midterm with some short term. You cannot be everything.
Yeah. And I think this works for all the industries. Like this works for hotels, short term, midterm. You first need to do your segmentation. You need to segment to define your product and your guests, because you cannot do one thing that serves all. Like you need to know what you want to sell and to who you want to sell. And then the data that you mentioned, all the data is good if you have hygiene. You have to clean it first. Don't use all the data. Like just clean it, adapt it, and then you can use it.
From Anna, there is any typical rental agreement for midterm, and how flexible can it be? I think a bit here again.
Well, we have our own contracts. So we have 2 or 3 kind of contracts, and there is not depends. Depends of the country. We are more focused on Spain, and Spain is an open contract, so we can put all the clauses that we think we were comfortable with, and obviously the people have to sign it. So we have long contract. We have. I don't know, a contract of 7 pages, for example, easily, but because we include all the rules and regulations that are very important. I mean, in question of noise, in question of respect for all the tenants. So this is very important to include in a contract.
And one of the last questions, how can I create a balance between catering to short-term and mid-term renters within the same property? I think again here we're coming to a question.
I can talk about strategies for pricing and minimum stay, and I will not talk about the product, about the building, amenities, decoration. Maybe that we can help with that. But in terms of strategies, there are some basic ones. Okay, first, if you want to sell everywhere, be sure that you are everywhere where you want to sell, like in terms of OTAs. But for example, if you have a minimum stay of 3 nights or 4 nights, but you are also open to sell midterm, don't forget to set the monthly discount. Okay, don't set the monthly discount of 10% or 20%. It's going to be too expensive for a midterm. You have to set, if your goal is to have 65 or 70% short term, you can give a 30% or 35% discount for a 1 month stay. It's exactly the same revenue. So if you want to sell both, use the monthly discount, for example, or a discount for 3 months or 2 months, whatever. And also adjust your price a little bit. Maybe inside your team you have the daily price, but then you have a certain goal for a monthly price, that when people want to negotiate a monthly price, you are open to negotiate, and not like, okay, it's what you see, something like that.
We got many proposals to move hotels to midterms, with investing some capex or whatever. What I said, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes it's a little more profitable to have a short term. Sometimes it's more profitable to have midterm. Sometimes it's more profitable to have both. So you have to do your numbers. You have to do your business plan. You have to think. You have to put a hypothesis to think what is better, because you cannot say that for everything is the best thing is to have, I don't know, short term and mid-term in the same building. Maybe yes, maybe not. So you have to choose what you want to do, but you have to do your numbers. Depends of the location, depends of the country, depends of the seasonality you have. So there are so many factors. You have to study the market. So you want to change from one thing to another, or you have to include, or you have to understand why, because maybe at the end you have less profits than the ones you have today.
Yeah, and there's one thing that I want to add that I think David throughout the presentation was one of the most important. If you want to go to the midterm, you have to remember that you have to invest in something that you don't need to invest in the short term. That is community. You have to create a way that they feel in the community, because if someone is going to stay 6 months in your apartment, he will feel lonely. He doesn't know anyone. He doesn't want to wash his clothes alone or something like that. So he wants to go out or go down or to and have someone to talk, or the possibility to meet someone, because he's working during the day. He's not in the beach or partying. So he's working. He has to be able to have some activity or some place to meet someone.
Indeed. I think we talked a lot of interesting topics. One of the biggest, as you mentioned, is being community. I think is very important. And as you mentioned, it's just because when you go on short-term vacation, you usually go for a few days. You just go to visit some biggest places, the Big Ben, whatever, and then you just go. No, you already come with a plan. And when you go more for these midterms, basically you come for a plan, but maybe for working on another project, you are not focusing on that other side part, which is maybe to have more fun, to go out, to have some free time with some other people, to interact in a city that you might not know anything and you have to be relocated. No, it's a completely different, let's say, animal. No? I would like to say thank you, everyone, especially David. You've been really insightful. To everyone that has been attending, of course, as well, thank you so much. We're sharing here a bit of the details from us. In case you have further questions, we'll be happy to answer any of you. So thank you, Fausto. Thank you, David. I'm not sure you would like to say any last quote.
If you have any questions, if you want to know more about Pricelabs, just visit our website and we can contact us. Yeah. Thank you, Hostify, for the invitation.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.